when they went to the Queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people.
Good morning, peasants. I screwed up. Let's see. I started us live while Taylor was out of the room.
Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. Are we live?
Yes. I gave a little pre-live.
A little pre-roll.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got to do all my stuff then.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see what I can do here.
This has never
This
happened
morning,
before.
I got up super early because I wanted to make sure my kid got off to the first day of school right. And he was up. And I was like, whoa, fresh start, right on. And I was up so early, I was like, wow, I wouldn't let the chickens out early. It's like, man, I still got extra time. I'm going to take the back roads. I took my time driving down here.
What are you thinking, man?
I don't know.
Like, what would hurt to be here 3 minutes early? No, I've got an extra 10 minutes. I'm taking the back road so I can get there when I get there. Oh, you're the best. All right. Good morning, Pony Boy. Of course. Good morning. Pray the Rosary Daily, Friday Eve. It's not Friday Eve. It's Wednesday. What are you talking about?
He's messing with you.
You are messing with me. Oh, my goodness, you people. Oh, there we go. Oh, I'm going to have to change my audio. Don't let me forget, Ron.
Okay.
They said they wanted more time for people to file in. They're getting it.
Yeah. This is how the sausage isn't made.
As Pray the Rosary Daily says, building the plane as you fly it.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. We actually have a huge show today, so I hope you guys are settled in for a nice 2.5, 3 hour broadcast. Whew. Just kidding. It could be a long one, though. All right. What else am I missing? I feel like I have everything up. All right. Should we start the show?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so Trump starts out this morning yesterday. There was a huge event in China where Russia and Modi from India and Putin from Russia, they all got together and had a party. Apparently, this was like China's celebration of the end of some fighting in World War II. I can't remember.
So like a real party, not like some official meeting.
No, it was a real party with big old Chinese military parade. We're talking like kind of put the U.S. military parade earlier this year to shame. We're not good at military parades. Okay?
No.
Like we don't drill them. We don't practice them. They do. So they put one on. The big question to be answered is whether or not President Xi of China will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States of America gave to China in order to help it secure its freedom from a very unfriendly foreign invader, Japan. Many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory. I hope that they are rightfully honored and remembered for their bravery and sacrifice. May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great and lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, as you conspire against the United States of America. President Donald J. Trump. So I pulled this clip from the show today because we're just not going to have time for it. But Donald Trump was asked about, have you talked to Putin? And he's like, no, I'm not happy with Putin. Announcements to come in the next few weeks. I was like, oh, great. So it sounds to me like Putin has kind of, played Trump one too many times. And I guess what's that phrase that they always say? F around and find out. So I guess we're going to F around and find out too, because we're along for the ride.
Oh boy.
So Ryan Ruth, Trump's assassin. Remember this guy? He's the assassin from the bushes.
Yeah, the wannabe.
Yeah, the wannabe assassin. He didn't pull off a shot. Oh, what happened? No.
I think you clicked the wrong button.
Of course I did. Dang it.
I think I saw it happen live. X. Oops.
Too many tabs. Buttons get too small. And then, of course, X has X as a logo, which looks eerily similar to the X which deletes it. Just saying. All right, let me pull it up here just a moment. So Ryan Ruth is getting ready to go to trial. And I think he had his last pretrial hearing before trial, and he fired his attorneys. He fired his public defenders, and he decided to go pro se, represent himself. And he submitted a motion yesterday. Now, this is like, there's something happening here that's not good. Inside the court system, it's important if you're representing yourself that you're competent, that you have the ability to represent yourself, that you're of sound mind, that you understand the charges and can assist in your own defense, and blah, 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 blah. All these
Don't they automatically assume that there needs to be an evaluation done if you decide to represent yourself?
Generally, yes, there needs to be an evaluation done. So they have not done that evaluation on Ryan Ruth. They're allowing him to proceed with self-representation. This is Judge Eileen Cannon. She was the judge in the Trump Mar-a-Lago documents case for, I'm wearing the visor today, by the way, Boston College, shout out. So she's allowing him to represent himself, but she's not allowing him to have access to any classified information because, quote, it would damage national security irreparably or something like that. So, yeah. So this is a motion that he filed yesterday. Motion to exclude prosecution's latest evidence and support. To present new evidence 2 weeks before court when it has been almost a year for them to gather all they needed, need I say more? It is absurd. The deadline has passed. If you would like to trade admitting any evidence for my subpoena of that baboon Donald J. Trump, bring the idiot on. It is a deal. If you do not want to trade for dumbass, then give me all the other my recent subpoena. Give me all the others on my recent subpoena list. BTU, I think a beatdown session would be more fun and entertaining for everyone. Give me shackles and cuffs and let the old fat man give it his worst. We must beat down crime in America. Carpet is red, isn't it? No harm in blood. If I am housed in Fort Lucy, can it be in a far-off quiet room, and can I have access to documents, phone, visitation, email, and maybe a computer and printer, or a fancy typewriter like this one? Some female strippers would be great too, model, parent, or perhaps a putting green so I can work on my putting, a golf joke. A round of golf with the racist pig. He wins. He can execute me. I win. I get his job. Sorry, Hillbilly Vance. Ryan Ruth.
Okay.
That's a defiant man right there.
I suppose.
I think this is going to result in a weird mistrial situation. That's my opinion. Like, they're submitting a motion like that days before a very serious trial. You're not getting discovery. You're not getting evidence presented to you because of national security. It sounds like a setup for craziness. Now, we haven't done any deep dives on the assassination attempts, but both of the Trump assassins last year were in BlackRock commercials. In an odd situation. And
conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, I know.
Jeez.
So, that I was just listening to, who was it? I think it was Robert Kennedy Jr. He was talking about specifically the conspiracy theorist phrase. And he's like, that was a created phrase after the death of JFK to basically label anybody that didn't believe in the main narrative as crazy. And that's stuck in the American lexicon. Conspiracy theorists have batting about 1,000. Leave the aliens out and you're about there. So this is Tim Walz. There was another conspiracy theory floating around Blue and On a couple days ago, and that was Trump was dead. Did you hear this?
No.
I even got asked about this at Buffalo Wild Wings by the manager there. He's like, what's up with this Trump being dead thing? So Biden, right, disappeared for months on end. But Trump goes 2 days without a press conference, and the press actually wondered if he was dead. Okay. So this is what Tim Walz is joking here when he makes this very poor joke.
You get up in the morning and you do.
I told you to remind me to switch over my audio.
I thought you were changing it right then. I thought you were joking with me.
No, I needed a reminder. This is not easy over here, Ron. I got like 300 tabs open. Okay.
You get up in the morning and you doom scroll through things, and although I will say this, the last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. Just saying. There will be news sometime. Just so you know, there will be news. You get up in the morning and you doom scroll through things, and
right.
Oh, I didn't get it. I was
doom scrolling and you find out something. So Scott Jennings on CNN had this to say. We got a couple clips from Scott Jennings today. Scott Jennings on CNN had this to say.
You had an opportunity to ask the president today about this, and you did not. Why?
Well, because when he got on the phone and sounded very much alive, I thought it would sound kind of stupid, frankly, to ask an alive person if they were dead. But I'll tell you who is a complete piece of shit. I'm going to tell you right now.
There have been a lot of swear words.
Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, holding up a phone in front of a rally saying, well, we thought we were going to wake up and find out the president had died. Someday it'll happen. Someday it'll happen.
Although I will say this, the last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. Just saying. There will be news sometime. Just so you know, there will be news.
And I used to say he was the biggest buffoon in American politics, but it's worse now.
Oh, he said he's the biggest piece of beep. So liberals all over are waking up. Could you imagine if you'd gone into some coma in 2020 when we came off the air, right? So this is liberals waking up after going into the coma and Trump's the elected. And this is a JP Sears skit. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. God, this is a nightmare to wake up to. I mean, things must be so dark and dangerous now that Trump is back in.
No, well, I don't know. I mean, Americans are more optimistic than ever before. There's more peace now, less wars. People are safer. The economy is doing great. Oh, your Bitcoin. You're technically a millionaire now.
I am?
Yeah, I tried to guess your password like a million times, so you still are. How long are you going to just lay in that?
Oh, wait. You're not wearing a mask. Did COVID end?
Sure did.
Oh, thank God. When?
Like about 3 months.
3 months ago?
No, 3 months before you went into a coma.
That's so weird. Okay, well, did Fauci come up with a cure? God, I bet he's got a Nobel Prize now, right?
No, he didn't get that. He did get a presidential pardon for crimes committed against humanity and all crimes he committed, in fact.
I mean, I thought we'd never get over it with all those online spreaders of misinformation like RFK Jr.
Oh, he's the health secretary now.
The health secretary of what?
The country.
What the hell? Oh my God, wait, did my brother have his baby?
No, it turns out men can't get pregnant.
Since when?
Since Trump took office, somehow men's ovaries stopped functioning correctly.
Did my brother have his baby? No. Somehow men's ovaries. Anyways, the craziness of the liberals. Now, here's the thing. Some of this stuff is very, very serious. And this is Rashida Tlaib at a tally. This is a little while ago. But she's giving a tally, and just listen to what she's saying. This is an elected representative, someone who puts on the congressional badge, right, is somehow, you know, in succession to the founding fathers that originally occupied the chambers of the House. And this is one of her rallies.
Look at the rooms, motherfuckers. We
It says, we're not going anywhere. People's Conference for Palestine.
structures that I have to work in, that we all are surrounded by, was built on slavery and genocide and rape and oppression. Real change doesn't come from the cowards and warmongers in Congress. It comes from the streets. It comes from all of us mobilizing and seizing the power to resist and fight back. Does that is the compass in this country?
Gaza is the compass in this country. It's the litmus test they're using to judge us. The system based on rape, genocide, slavery, right? Which, man, a system built like that doesn't really deserve to, it doesn't have very solid foundations, does it, Ron?
I don't know.
Now we're in Congress and we're every corner of the United States.
She says now we're in Congress and we're in every corner of the United States. What is she talking about?
I don't know.
I want to draw this parallel over to England, where they're, you know, really having a challenge with the growing Islamic population, the Muslims. Muslims are the people who practice Islam. Islam is the religion. Okay. So this is a, I don't know, for lack of a better word, the Muslim equivalent of a preacher, right? And he's in England, and he's talking about exactly how it is Britain will become an Islamic country. So when you hear Rashida Tlaib say things about, you know, we're now in every corner of this country, change happens with us, this is what they envision for change. Okay. It's important because if we don't understand at least the basic worldview and premise of the people that we're interacting with, we end up having some serious problems. It's just a fact, right? If you're in business and you don't same moral and honor code of the person doing business with you, that contract is it's only as good as the honor of the person who signed it, right? Same thing happens in a situation like this. You've got a situation where the country is being split culturally, and one of these cultures has complete and total domination in mind.
Equality to all of its members. Is there such a thing in Islam? Is there equality of faith? If we look to one hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on the authority of Abu Huraira, Sahih Muslim. So no Sunni Muslim can really argue against Sahih Muslim or Sahih Bukhari. Rasulullah said, don't greet the Jews and the Christians before they greet you. And when you meet any of them on the roads, force them to go on the narrow side of it. And Imam Maliki said the same thing as well. In fact, Umar ibn Khattab, who Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that if there was to be another Nabi after me, it would be Umar ibn Khattab in his own charter, not charter of United Nations, in his charter with the people of Sham, with those Christians of Sham, in his charter was Kafir and Muslim, they're not allowed to wear the same clothes as one another. If the Muslim, he comes out on the day of Eid and he sees Kafir with nice clothes, the Kafir
is basically non-believer.
Take his clothes off and give it to the Muslims. The Kafir, when he walks inside the street, he has to wear a red belt around his neck, and he has to have his forehead shaved, and he has to wear two shoes which are different from one another. He's not allowed to walk on the pavement. He has to walk in the middle of the road, and he has to ride on a mule. And that's only for the adults, not for the children. And you can see how Islam would make the child become a Muslim. The Kafir, or the child growing up in a state of kufr, he will turn to Islam. Why? Because the child will be walking along with his dad. They say, Dad, yeah, why you got your forehead shaved? I don't know whether these Muslims, they make me do it. Why you got to walk? Why can't you ride the animal? Like the Muslims, they ride the animal like this. Why are you walking with both legs dangling on the side of the donkey? Why is it every time the Muslim comes to you, he asks you for your clothes, you give it? Why is it every time he tells you to get down from the horse, you have to take it? And not only that, he said the kuffar, they can have their churches. They can have their churches, but they're not allowed to ring the bell. And if a Muslim, he's walking by, let's say, for example, a Muslim's been on Edgware Road, for example. He's had some nice shisha, some nice steak, no hubble bubble. We don't deal with anything like that. And he's walking along and he's rubbing his belly and he's like, oh, man, I don't want to upset my wife tonight. What he can do, he can go to the church, knock on the door. John, let me in. Okay, no problem. John has to put up Abdul Ghafoor for the night. Abdul Ghafoor with his big belly, having his nice kebab. John has to open up the church and he has to go there and sleep there nice and comfortable and say, all right, John, thank you. And then carry on going early in the morning. Which wife is going to live with John under that type of circumstances? What kind of honoring is this for me to live with John and Abdul Ghafoor comes every Friday night and sleeps in our bed as well? Of course, because sunnah is to look after the guest. Innit? I can't make you sleep on my floor if you can't. You're a Muslim, by the way. So what about when Abdul Ghafoor goes to John's house? John, sleep on the floor. And I'll sleep on the bed. What's going to happen? Tracy's going to be on the floor thinking, my husband, he's got a forehead shaved, and this one, look at this one, Khatab, mashallah. Which one's more attractive? We're not gay, but I'm just saying. A man with his forehead shaved and one belt around his neck and two different colored shoes, or Amir Khatab. Amir Khatab, we're talking about here now, with that nice Chechen hat. Big beard, a bit to the side. Yeah. And he's got the badges there. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. Yeah. And he's got a big gun. And he's got a big camouflage jacket on. Nice boots. Gloves as well. Even if he's got a couple of fingers missing, still looks attractive. Yeah. What's Tracy going to do? John's in for a problem. He just let him in for a kebab. He lost his own wife as well. So everyone's going to become Muslim. That is, my dear brothers, the Islamic State.
That's the objective. That's the thing.
Maybe it's too early for me.
We talk about weaponization of our virtue, right? He's literally saying we're going to come into these countries and then slowly but surely we're going to make the Christians, here's what it says, we transform the UK into an Islamic state and will impose humiliating laws on non-Muslims to make them convert to Islam. Make it painful not to be Islamic.
Who was this guy?
He is Islamic scholar Abu Walid.
Scholar. Okay.
Scholar. Yeah. He's explaining exactly how it's done. When I hear Rashida Tlaib, like we're in all corners of the world, the political systems that we operate, so clearly you don't put too much merit into these systems, right? Are built on slavery, genocide, all these bad things. So they've got to go. Okay. And then you listen to someone like that. This is a universal trend, right? We've covered this going all the way back when we identified BLM as part of Muslim Brotherhood and this entire Palestine movement. She says Palestine is now our compass in this country. It's their litmus test. I'm just saying, like, culturally,
why don't local news stations cover this kind of thing?
Because it's toxic.
Yeah.
It's toxic. People don't want to hear this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? People don't want to be the bad guys. You don't want to look at another religion or another race or another group of people and be the bigot. We don't want to do that. It's not in our nature. We're not raised that way. We're raised to be open and accepting. We've the current generation that's existing today is the generation that clapped when the National Guard desegregated the schools. You know what I mean? Like we are in an environment where we just want to follow the truth. What is 2 + 2? It's 4. Okay, well, I don't care what your belief in God is. It's 4, right? Does that make sense? We've become very sectarian. And so this coming in, we have no immune system for it. We have no way to repel it because we've opened our doors. It goes all the way into the immigration, which we're going to get to at the end of the show. So it's part of the thing that we need to be aware of. We are fighting a huge culture war here. There's policy, yes. Tax rates matter. Tariffs pro, tariffs nay. All of those things are debates that we can have, and we can laugh at each other. And Democrats just want to take your money and spend it, blah, 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 right?
Sure.
These guys want to take your clothes. These guys want to take your bed. These guys want to take your wife. These guys want to take your kids over an ideological belief in a certain religion. That's what they want to do, and not by choice. They want to compel it through shame and, coercion. And
death
force.
to the infidel.
Death to the infidel. Exactly. It's scary stuff.
Yeah. I'm not into it.
Yeah, I'm not into it either. And I hate covering it. There are certain topics that I hate covering because I kind of feel like a bigot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, this is really happening.
Yeah. Open eyes.
25 years ago, if we'd have been like, you know what they're going to be doing in your local elementary school? They're going to be, the school guidance counselor is going to tell your son that he's a girl, and they're going to secretly whisk them off to some care center, and they're going to start them on medication, and they won't tell you until they're scheduling the surgery to chop off his ding-a-ling. And you'll be like, nah. And they'll be like, no, literally, look, the president had to write an executive order to stop this stuff. That's how out of control it got. You know what I mean? And by the way, still going, not over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is, we can't look at this stuff blindly. I'm sure in England, when they're like, the number one baby name is Muhammad. And, we've got a listener who every now and then reaches out. She's a consistent listener since the very beginning. She reaches out and talks about what's going on in England. And this is what it is. The streets are changing. Certain neighborhoods you don't want to go into. They're self-enforcing that Sharia law thing that they like. It can be some scary stuff. And what are you going to do about it?
I don't know.
Exactly. I don't know. Go to work?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do about it. Feels like something politicians should do something about.
I got bills to pay.
Close a border. Exactly. That's Ron. That sentiment. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. That's right. There's very little we peasants by ourselves can do. The only thing you can do is shore up your belief system. Start taking your kids to church. Start praying. Give them the values so that they can resist. That's the only thing that you can really do as peasants. Everything else is like a political solution. You and others are not covering this. It is them using our virtues against us for calling out the obvious. Yes, Pony Boy. You and others are not covering it. It is them using. Yeah, that's what it is. They're using our virtue against us. No doubt about it. Okay. So yesterday there was a big event that happened on Capitol Hill. Huge event. Epstein victims came to testify before Congress. Now, to set the stage on this, right? Trump has called the Epstein list, quote unquote, a hoax, mainly because it's that list and all that evidence has been in control of the same people who are the Russiagate grand conspiracy coup plotters. So there's a lot of suspicion on what is or isn't in there. We do know some of Epstein's crimes and alleged crimes. There's a lot of connections that get made with him being part of intelligence and how big was this trafficking scheme versus how much was it blackmail versus, not so much blackmail, how much was it financial, money laundering versus gun sales and stuff like that. It's very difficult for us to decipher all this because there's not a lot of great original sources. And even when you get listening to some of the victims, like we've done on this show, then they start talking about reptilians, changing lings, and it gets a little weird. Can we say that for the least?
Yeah.
So Catherine Austin Fitts pointed something out a while ago in a podcast she did. She said, whatever the deep state cabal is, they think they can take out Donald Trump with this Epstein thing and that they can do it by Christmas. When she said that, I was the scandal kind of died down after that, right? There was the peak, Trump's a pedo, Elon left, and then they kind of got out in front of it and they went and interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell, and it's died down a little bit. We haven't mentioned it on the show for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it is. Well, now these victims came in and spoke, and I want you to pay attention to the serious concern that these political leaders on both sides of the aisle have after this meeting with the victims yesterday. So when Catherine Austin Fitts said they can use this to take out Trump, I was like, I don't know exactly how they do it, but after watching this clip, I could start to see it materialize. So take a listen and see if you see it.
Good afternoon, everyone. We just spent more than 2 hours with 6 of the Epstein victims, some of the bravest women I've ever met. They're very courageous. I would describe it as heartbreaking and infuriating that justice has been delayed so long. Some of the women in the room began to be groomed by Epstein and his accomplices, Ghislaine Maxwell and the others, 30 years ago. The objective here is not just to uncover, investigate the Epstein evils, but also to ensure that this never happens again, and ultimately to find out why justice has been delayed for these ladies for so very long. It is inexcusable, and it will stop now because the Congress is dialed in on this.
The victims themselves have stated that this is a lot bigger than I think anyone anticipated. We are obviously going to be requesting the SARS reports from Treasury, and also following up on that. There's some very rich and powerful people that need to go to jail.
One of them said something to the effect of, either you all are all very serious and honest about this, or you're very good actors. We're going to find out who's real, and we're going to find out who the real actors are.
For people that would wonder, how high are the stakes here? This is a matter of life and death. Because Virginia Jeffrey took her life after decades of failure, and there are victims that can no longer come forward because they're in a fetal position, so broken by the weight of what they've been carrying, shame that they've been carrying when it is not their shame to carry.
So you had Jasmine Crockett and Ayanna Pressley, along with Representative Johnson and Anna Paulina Luna, all there saying the same thing. So for the first time, you have kind of this bipartisan effort, specifically with this far left contingent, right? This isn't the Jerry Nadlers and what these are. They're after it now. Where's this going to go?
I don't know, but it was weird how they had kind of very weird alignment.
The House has done nothing to enshrine Trump's executive orders into law. They're on recess. The Senate has stepped out and they're on break right now, not doing any kind of appointments or anything like that. Right? There's been, I mean, Trump occasionally has to take him out to the woodshed to get the big, beautiful bill passed or whatever it is. But for the most part, they're kind of dormant and all this stuff. They are going to start having some hearings. We'll see what that looks like. Could be a lot of kabuki theater. My concern is this is that alignment of the, quote, deep state with all of its tentacled interests that span party lines. If there is anything there to the Trump Epstein thing, this is another Russiagate where, oh, we've seen some stuff and we've heard some things, but we can't present it now. But oh my goodness, this president, oh my goodness, this president. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can really fire people up over this Epstein thing. It's kind of concerning. So Anna Paulina Luna, we'll play a couple different clips here just because I want to get all the information out on the table on this stuff. What is going on here? My tab like minimized. Okay, so this is Anna Paulina Luna's longer clip as she walked out of the hearing.
Right now, the biggest thing that stands out to me is the victims themselves have stated that this is a lot bigger than I think anyone anticipated. We are obviously going to be requesting the SARS reports from Treasury, and also following up on that. There's some very rich and powerful people that need to go to jail. I think everyone's been frustrated as to why that hasn't happened before. But it is very much so a possibility that Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence asset working for our adversaries. But also, I think the questions that we have is how much did our own government know about it? And so there's more to follow, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from the chairman momentarily. But I do applaud the victims from coming forward because We heard from a woman who was as young as 14 years old when she was victimized multiple times by Jeffrey Epstein. So that's hard to hear.
Did you sign the discharge petition and ask the discharge petition?
I think that the files will probably be released prior. I don't know why Comer hasn't. I think that he should do it, so it wouldn't even have to come to a vote. But I mean, obviously, I've been a huge advocate, even when I was the only one in Congress calling for the release of this file. So I think I'd be happy to, yes. Thank you.
What do they call from the victims?
The victims want information to be out there, but they don't want their personal information, I think, for good reason to be out there. So I think from the get-go, even the Attorney General stated that there's victim information that you have to make sure that's private, being that some of the victims also, too, are as young as 14, and it's child pornography. So thank you, guys.
Okay, let it through.
Okay, so they don't want certain information out there. The victims also don't know. That was the other thing here. This is Anna Paulina Luna again talking this time out on the Capitol skip. So a little bit of overlap in what she's saying, but some new things as well.
Well, there's 33,000 pages that have been released. I have to at least look over some of them. I'd like to get through all of them before I decide whether or not I'm going to do that. But I think that they've basically released everything except for the victim information, which obviously we don't release that. One thing to note that today when we were actually talking to some of the victims, one of the women stated that at 14, when Epstein started to victimize her, that she has no recollection of some of the stuff that was done to her. She's hoping to find that out so that she can actually bring it to her therapist and continue the healing process in regards to the damage and the trauma that was caused to her. So, but from what I'm being told, from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of very wealthy, bad people. It's actually scary to hear some of the stuff that was brought forward. And so I think the only way to collectively attack this is as a group and as a whole, meaning that Democrats and Republicans have to work together and back Comer's subpoenas, because I think this is going to be pretty hairy.
Is there more information beyond these 33,000 pages?
Well, there's going to be names. The attorneys kept emphasizing you need to follow up on the names. These girls are not just making this up. These are some of the wealthiest people probably in the world. And we'll start.
So they named individual people that are part of.
Apparently, in these files that just dropped, I have not been able to look over all the files again. There's 33.
I'm talking about in the meeting.
There are some people named, yes.
Were there any public officials that they named?
No, but very, very wealthy people have been.
Can you name them?
They told us not to because they don't want those people to start basically burning files. So I think this is going criminal investigation for sure. I will say that what's been released, obviously the American people have wanted for a long time. Kudos to the DOJ for getting it to us. I know that some of the delay was due to redacting victim information, and so we'll see where it goes from here.
So
well, there's 33,000
going criminal. So it's not going to be aired out. She seems pretty serious about this. You know what I mean? This is the woman who got on Joe Rogan's show and was talking about aliens and spacecrafts and the Book of Enoch. And this is a little more serious. Like, did they name names? Yes. Very wealthy people. Where's it going? They don't want them to start burning documents. These victims have been around for a while. These allegations have been around for a while. If you could go down some really deep dives on, the internet and research all this stuff, who knows what's true? I mean, I've been down far enough that I'm just like, I can't separate the chain shifting reptilians from the gun running, from the money laundering, I know it's a cabal. I know these people are up to no good. I don't know the scale of this, right? Yeah. It's clearly international, but are we talking thousands, tens of thousands, or are they moving hundreds of thousands of kids? Or is it really just a couple hundred kids out of the streets of Johannesburg, South Africa, and Palm Beach? We have no idea. And to who? Are there any public officials? No, but some very wealthy people. That kind of precludes allegations against Donald Trump directly, but considering they've already tied him to the files, and that, by the way, is sticking on the left. Like Epstein, Trump, now synonyms if you're on the left side of things. That's the, Trump, Russia, Putin puppet, Epstein, Trump, best friends. It's like, it's become a thing. So here's Tim Burkhart. This is his reaction coming out of the meeting.
These ladies were mistreated, of course, by Epstein and Maxwell, but also mistreated by the government. And we got to rethink the whole files thing. Apparently, there's some files that they don't want out. So I've said all along, I need to protect these young ladies, but they're so young, they're kids. We need to make sure we do that. And I think we're going to get there. I think we're going to get to the right spot where we can release everything that needs to be released. But again, in our rush to do this, we have to protect these ladies and these others that were involved.
Is that what they were advocating for there, to keep some things private?
Yeah, because I asked specifically. It wasn't really a question and answer, but they made a statement, and I asked specifically about certain files. I don't want to disclose too much because obviously, but yeah, I think we need to protect these young ladies.
Are you still going to sign on to the Massey's discharge petition?
I got to clarify that we can protect what they need to protect. I think we all agree on that.
So the discharge petition that Massey put out to release all these files, I actually don't know how they voted on it, but the White House put out a statement saying any Republican who votes that is basically declaring open war against the White House. They're open enemies of the Trump administration. That's the strongest statement I've seen. I mean, so the Trump administration's position is do not release these files, do not release anything, which, by the way, Anna Paulina DeLuna did release the congressional files on a Google Drive, and apparently people were downloading them, and it was mostly all redacted stuff. Go figure. Right?
Of course.
But so I haven't seen anything of relevance that's come up from that, but other than just a bunch of blacked out redacted documents. Fascinating. Where are we going here? This was like,
these are the days of our lives.
Those were dour politicians. They were not figuring out talking points. It was like, this is big. We have to do something with it. Anna Paulina Luna says there's definitely possibility he was working with foreign intel. The question is, how much did our own government know about
If you really wanted to have a really good episode in your kabuki theater, though, you would play it hard.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
so
it has to be believable.
It has to be believable. We'll see. We'll see where this goes. As I was watching this unfold, I had this thought, especially when I saw Jasmine Crockett and Ayanna Pressley jumping in on it so hard. I was like, why do I have a feeling they're going to use this and try to weaponize it against Trump? This is going to be like the deep state trying to take out the deep state to get rid of the good state. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So this is a video clip of JD Vance when he was giving a speech to the EU commissioners about free speech and freedom of expression. And this was a powerful speech. He called out Europe, and something happened yesterday or 2 days ago that's pretty significant along these lines. So I want to cover this. For people that don't think that we're knocking at the door of a complete and total tyrannical state, you got to hear this.
Commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago, the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. And Britain And across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
That's crazy. That's tyranny. But
so,
whoa, this is like directly targeting Christianity, Christians.
Yeah, this was a couple months ago, right?
Wow.
When they came in, this was JD Vance's big European tour, and he went and was like, "Stop the censorship." And this is when the UK solicitor, whoever, was like, "If you make a post in America that we don't like, we will ask for extradition. Charge you here." Well, turns out they were serious.
Wow.
On September 1st, 2025, just 2 days ago, Irish-born comedian and writer Graham Lineman, known as Glenier on X, and co-creator of the British TV sitcoms Father Ted and the It Crowd, which our European listeners might recognize, was arrested at London Heathrow's airport upon arriving from the United States. The arrest was in connection with 3 posts he made on X, formerly Twitter, earlier in 2025, which contained jokes and commentary critical of transgender ideology and activists. Linehan has described the posts as satirical humor, but police charged him on suspicion of inciting violence under UK's Communications Act of 2003 and Serious Crime Act of 2007. What happened? Linman, age 57 and living in Arizona at the time, was
Is this something you want to show, or?
Sure, I can show it.
So this dude, the IT crowd, that's the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I was hoping there was a picture.
No.
Okay. So what's this dude's name?
Linman.
I got to look him up.
Graham Linman, or Lineman. Linehan. Apologize. So he's living in Arizona at the time, was met by 5 armed Metropolitan Police officers from the aviation unit as he disembarked his flight. He was detained like a terrorist, searched, placed in a cell, and interviewed about the posts. He was briefly hospitalized due to concerns for his health, non-life-threatening, then released on bail pending further investigation, with a second interview in October 2025 as part of his bail conditions. He is reportedly banned from using X while in the UK. On April 25, a post stating, "If trans identified as male is in a female-only space, he is committing a violent abusive act. Make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls." Linham later explained to police that this was a serious point made with a joke about physical differences between men and women, not a literal call to violence. An aerial photo of protesters, possibly at a gender-critical rally, captioned, "A photo you can smell," which police interpreted as potentially inflammatory. The post expressing hatred towards misogynists and homophobes with an expletive tied to his broader views on transgender issues. This post aligns with Lindeman's long-standing gender-critical stance, including his criticism of what he sees as the erosion of women's rights in a single-sex space. He has faced professional backlash for these views in the past, including being canceled from comedian circuits. So this is he made those posts while in the United States. And upon his return to England, boop, arrested. Punch him in the balls.
Jeez.
I'm sensitive to this because I watched how the United States government can weaponize your words online, right? If you do anything and step out of line, they can reach back into all your social media and they can find things. They put up a post from summer of 2020. Keep in mind, this is 2024. Or 2023, we're sitting in there. Summer of 2020, 6 months prior to January 6th happening, when DC is on fire. There's an aerial photo of parts of DC lit up, this big thing with smoke in the air. And I go, light them up. And I put the hashtag emoji, I put the fire emoji. That's all I put, light them up. Like, you're going to let your city burn? Let it burn. Oh, he had intent to come and do damage to the city. Okay, they can twist and manipulate your words any way you want. So for this guy here, this is happening. JD Vance went over and gave that speech. It's not the first time that there's been one of these hate speech, thought crime laws enforced, but this is the first time we've seen where they're enforcing actions that took place on foreign soil in their domestic spheres. This is the stuff of tyrants. This is the stuff of dictators, right? So Mike Benz has a response, and his idea on how to deal with this is pretty straightforward.
Kill every dollar of funding to the city of London. They're big boys. They have big banks. They'll be all right. A message has to be sent. We will know the right thing is being done from this State Department and this White House when there's a screaming headline about how upset the UK ambassador to the US is about the state of negotiations and the pullout of US financial investment in the British establishment and in the British foreign policy realm. This has gone too far at this point. They are arresting people. There was always this idea that the U.S. and UK are they're different systems. They have a monarchy over there. For what it's worth, they don't have a First Amendment, but there has been this big historical bond. But the idea that you can make a tweet in Arizona and then think that you can fly to London and everything will be fine, and you end up being hauled away by 5 armed guards awaiting prison, only allowed bail if you agree to never open your mouth again. This is the sort of thing that is frankly a major international incident, and a message has to be sent. If you punch people on American soil, you'll be hit by 3 times that force from the United States.
Mike Benz, as always, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to.
So the country that's being taken over by Islamists and Muslims that have an open agenda of taking over by persecuting the Christians, the kafar, the infidel, right? By making them shave their heads, by making them wear different shoes, a funny belt around their waist, by forcing them to give them their clothing whenever they want, by sleeping in their bed whenever they want, just because they can, right? That country that's allowing that to happen is using their laws to make sure it happens. Because if you speak against, or you bring up the fact that they believe this, or that they're taking over your streets, or that there's grooming and rape gangs running through the streets, we didn't even play any of this because it's just too sad and depressing. But like a week ago, there was a young girl that was defending her sister from a predator, a foreign predator in England. She had a knife and a hatchet, and she got arrested from defending her sister. After, when you look at the video and you find out the story, she's been harassed, and her sister's been harassed, and they've been touched, and they've been nearly kidnapped. And she finally was like, stop. And it's like, oh, the system's going to protect him from her. Right? That country just arrested someone who made posts in America that you and I don't even find controversial. I don't know if I want to go on a tour of Europe right now, right? I mean, at what point are they going to arrest an American citizen for what they've done? You've heard Brazil make threats, right? Brazil shut down X, and that's the thing with this big event with Putin and with Kim Jong-un and with Modi and Chairman Xi, and I guess Lula from Brazil made a little video appearance there. These nations are conspiring to take away our humanity. There's just no doubt about it. By your fruits ye shall know them, right? And meanwhile, Trump and the administration back home, they're fighting every fight they can fight. This situation with the Fed Reserve, by the way, it is the most, you're going after the thing. The Federal Reserve is the glue that holds the whole system together, right? It's the money, and it's fiat. It's not based in gold or silver. There's no Scrooge McDucks out there with their vaults of golden coins anymore. It's all money backed by the power and the might and the precision of the United States military and judicial system to enforce contracts, et cetera, et cetera. If you can't enforce contracts, if contracts aren't valid, if the enforcers themselves don't have valid contracts, the whole thing is kabuki. At what point do nations like Russia and like Brazil and like India and like China just go, no, we're not doing that? They could instantly replace the American Federal Reserve System with their own. Why couldn't they, Ron? Why couldn't they? It'd only be bad for the people that are not affiliate countries with them, right? Because they've already got their own currency systems. They just would, dump their dollars. What harm would it do? If the America is just assigning a value to it, we'll just assign a value to it too. And just dump the dollars. Such a bad system. So this fact that Lisa Cook is still in, it's a big deal. CNBC is starting to change their tune. Notice how in this clip they actually refer to as the former governor, and then the sycophant comes in and goes, no, she's still working there.
Filing new information this afternoon in her effort to overturn her firing by the Trump administration. Steve Leisman's got the details on this one. Steve.
Hey, Melissa. Yeah, Fed Governor Lisa Cook in her filing in her case to overturn her firing by the president says explicitly, quote, she did not ever commit mortgage fraud, calls the president's move to unseat her, quote, the greatest threat to the Federal Reserve Board's political.
So now she's saying she'd never committed mortgage fraud.
Okay.
All right.
Independence in its one.
Yeah, and I never went to an insurrection.
11-year history. The 34-page brief filed late this afternoon argues that She can't be fired for conduct taken before she was in office, only for negligence and malfeasance in office. Any alleged mortgage inconsistencies were apparent in nomination documents she submitted as part of her Senate confirmation. She's entitled to a hearing before firing, and a tweet is not notice. And the correct remedy, if there is one needed, is impeachment, not firing by the president. The president said he fired Cook for cause because she claimed 2 homes in mortgage applications as her primary residences. But the brief by Cook argues explicitly the president fired her because he wants control of the Fed, and lists multiple tweets by the president saying just that. President Trump's efforts to oust Governor Cook, quote, demonstrate a blatant push by the president and his allies to exert greater control over the independent central bank. It says letting the firing stand will give the president, quote, unfettered control over the Fed. The government now is required to file a response by Thursday, so no ruling likely before that. At least may take a little bit more time, Melissa, but some tough words now from the Fed governor.
All right, Steve, thank you. Steve Leisman. Steve was going through that, and I just kept thinking they're kind of strange arguments to make, to say if anything bad happened and it happened before my tenure, it doesn't count. That if we allow this to happen, then it impairs Fed independence, like all these other sort of reasons.
I don't know if that argument is sort of estoppel in that, okay, you had the chance to look at this. You never chose to do anything about it.
So
and then we're not cutting
it. And the stuff was out there.
Right. Yeah. We're not cutting. Yeah, I understand. It sounds kind of weird because it sounds like, okay, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But I wonder if that's what's behind that argument, because the rest about, this is just to get control of the Fed. That's sort of
it is
fairly obvious, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think both of those things are exactly right. I mean, I don't think there's any question what the intent here is of the White House, but I'd like to hear just clear, I did nothing wrong. And that's my defense. But the technicalities are important in the process we have in this country. So
So he says the technicalities we have are important in the process we have for this country. Let me finish the sentence.
Again, the two things out there are...
Okay, so the process is important, the technicalities in this country. And he's kind of referring to the judicial process of due process. But I would also say, yes, and the technicalities of which boxes you check on those forms and how you apply for those applications is also important, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Like you want to lean on all process and due process and I get my day in court. Okay, well, did you sign that contract willingly, knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily?
Yeah. Isn't the process just going to eventually
lead to the fact that you committed
the
fraud?
inevitable fraud?
Yes, exactly.
Innocent, she's innocent. We know the White House wants control of the Fed, and that is obviously something for both the market and for a lot of other people in this country to think about. But it really is a dynamic where I think the process here is something that I think is important to respect, and that's clearly what she's leaning against.
The process will eat you alive. Yes. So Whitney Webb, this is from an older clip that she had, but she's talking about how they're trying to create a monetized planet where everything we do is securitized. Now, on the 1776 Live platform, we spend a lot of time talking about money. We spend a lot of time talking about securities and how so many things have been turned into securities. Everything from court cases to traffic citations to your child's school registration numbers to your social security number all create securities that get traded on the bond market. It's kind of really direct and it's in your face, but we, the people, never hear about this. You never know the source of the money. We think, oh, our taxes pay for this. No, taxes go to pay interest, right? They go to pay interest on the money that was created by virtue of these securities that monetize everyday normal things that we do into tradable bonds. So Whitney Webb is referring to this and how Larry Fink specifically is trying to expand that market by monetizing more and more things. Okay. They have actually gone so far as to monetize our living being. There's a whole bunch of stuff Bill Clinton signed into law in the 90s where he monetized every living man with 2 arms and 2 legs. Like it actually says that in the thing. Okay. They created a security to create funding for the government based off that. So this is what she's referring to and how they're going to continue to monetize natural resources. They're going to apply numbers to it, like registration numbers, licensing for natural resources, et cetera, and that those rights will then be bundled up and monetized. This is the creation of the corporate world, the prison planet, if you will.
Asset manager, BlackRock being able to unlock and take control of as many natural assets as possible that aren't currently part of the financial system is obviously a way for them to perpetuate what they do and deepen and expand their control over not just people in the existing financial system, but really over the natural world as well, and essentially turn everything alive into a tradable Wall Street financial product. It seems like in Larry Fink's case in particular, there's a goal, a big ambition there to develop new asset classes that can be used to basically fuel their existing business model and perpetuate it for millennia forward. So one of these that I've been writing about for a few years is the whole idea of natural assets, what they call nature's economy. Natural assets as possible that aren't currently part of the financial system is obviously a way for them to perpetuate what they do and deepen and expand their control over not just people in the existing financial system, but really over the natural world as well, and essentially turn everything alive into a tradable Wall Street financial product. And the goal, as Fink has stated, is to have all of this on a universal ledger, on blockchain, presumably, and have it be, trackable and surveillable. By having it all surveillable and automated in a sense, he's able to have his risk management AI thing, Aladdin, sort of exercise control over it in unprecedented ways, I think, for their benefit. And then, of course, a lot of what's happening now as we're moving into this new financial governance system is the push to change all of the infrastructure towards this, quote unquote, green model, I guess, or decarbonization, right? Part of the goal of the whole global carbon market thing for them is that it allows them to unlock so many new assets and so much more collateral and so much other stuff to create new debt out of, and to just sort of expand the existing models they use to just unprecedented levels. And sort of perpetuate this into infinity. One of the things, too, about the natural asset thing, at least as far as the natural asset corporation model is concerned, is that you literally just go into a forest or you go to a river or lake and you identify the natural asset. And then at no cost to you, just after identifying it, you issue shares in the natural asset, a lake, a forest, whatever, and then you sell those shares. I mean, it's literally just pointing out something outside and being like, this is mine, I'm going to fractionalize it and sell it to people, and you're producing money in like, out of thin air, essentially. And you're able to do that. I mean, the natural world is vast and huge, and they're doing this, they're financializing it all as framing it as the only way to save the planet. But really, it's the only way for them to save their insane debt racket.
The debt has to continue expanding because it can't be paid off. It can only be paid
as
off
an asset
using new debt assets into the system to pay off the old ones, because it's a Ponzi scheme. Like, they will prosecute you for doing the thing they do.
And it's continuously crumbling.
It's continuously crumbling, which requires them to pile on top. The bottom rots out, so pile more on top and pile. Look, we're getting taller and taller. Yeah, but you're oozing out the bottom, right? You're smashing all the little guys. That's okay. That's okay. It's not our problem, right?
We're just market makers.
Good morning, Carlites. Welcome. So this is Jordan Peterson talking about the interplay of this with Real ID and how Real ID, remember, as you're monetizing all these assets, look, a lake, let's fractionalize it. Now you've got rights and who can go to it and who can't, in terms of service and contracts of adhesion, that we change the terms as we're going. So what you signed up for versus what you're getting is totally different. You ever consider the terms of service on the first Apple phone you got? It's full of privacy.
All the EULAs that nobody ever read.
It was unhackable, all this stuff. Now you read the terms of service, it's like, we're still unhackable, but we have backdoors for Google and Snapchat. They can all cross-app spy, even though you've turned app cross-app spying. You know what I mean? It's like the former terms of service to now have changed, whether you consented or not. Okay. That's what's happening here. Everything is changing. Things are becoming corporatized. And Trump is not slowing this down. He's merging government with corporate, which in one hand is great, because at least I know what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a corporation, not a government, right? I don't owe fealty to BlackRock. There is no pledge of allegiance for little children to stand up to the BlackRock mascot and pledge allegiance. There is for the flag.
But it also means that government really likes this model.
The government really
for
likes
some
this
reason.
model. And Trump is pushing Real ID. And I think part of the reason he's pushing Real ID is because he's trying to get rid of illegal immigration. And so the best way to do that is to identify who should be here. And you should bring your ID to vote. And you should bring your ID to the grocery store. And you should bring your ID to, different events in life.
I know, but it's only like 2 steps away from, do you have your papers?
Bingo. And here's what Jordan Peterson points out.
If you have digitally verified ID, then you run into the problems of digitally verified ID, and they're running down that road in China now. So in China, for example, God, this is going to happen here, I think, too. Although maybe people will fight it. If a traffic camera catches you jaywalking in China, okay, so the digital ID system has your blood now, has your genetic code, has your photograph. It can identify how you walk. So even if you can't see a face, you can be picked up by gait. It will convict you of jaywalking and take money out of your bank account with no intermediating judiciary at all, and show a picture of you to the people in the neighborhood so they know that you have jaywalked, and reduce your social credit score. And if your social credit score falls below a certain level, then you can't buy drinks from a vending machine. You can't play video games. You can't go on a train. You can't get out of your 15-minute city. All that's already in place in China.
Do you think that would be helpful or unhelpful?
It would be. I think it would bring in, and it has already in China, I think it'll bring in a totalitarian tyranny so 100% complete that it would make George Orwell's 1984 look like a picnic.
So you've got a world where everything's being digitally fractionalized, securitized, which means ownership and control and terms of service and contracts. At the same time, the Real ID is connecting you to all those things and can deny you benefits and take money out of your account without adjudication, which frankly, AI is a better judge than real judges sometimes. The only problem is they don't have equity. It doesn't have equity before its eyes, right? It might not make procedural mistakes, but it's going to make all kinds of substantial mistakes of substance.
Yeah, so I just heard a story yesterday about a woman who lost her online accounts because they got flagged. Well, they got flagged incorrectly, and she got deplatformed and lost all of her accounts, like instantly, lost all of her content, and she counted on this content for her livelihood.
Yeah.
And so she was instantly screwed. It took her over a year to get her accounts back. And then it turned out in the process of finding out, well, what happened, that AI had flagged her.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could easily see how AI could accidentally flag somebody with Real ID, and all of a sudden you don't have the ability to live. You're instantly homeless. I mean, is this a system we want?
I walked this path. Sometimes I think of myself as just the humblest peasant. I am a normal dude. I wake up, I do my morning routine. We come in here, we yell into the microphone, like 7 people listen to us. It's more than that. It's more than that through the day, right? But we have a small audience. I go and I do my daily stuff. I help people with different issues. But a lot of my ability to help people with different issues is having a little bit of insight into where we're going. So the whole point of what I'm saying with this show is your values are getting turned around. I grew up a Boy Scout. I chose to homeschool my kids, right? Super patriotic, Pledge of Allegiance, all this kind of stuff. But what I found out was this life that I was taught was the ideal American life, right? Work hard, get good grades, get a good job, maybe be an entrepreneur, really pay things back, hire people, be a contributor, right? I lived that life. Only I am the solution to the problems I see in the world. School districts are a problem. I'm not going to go complain at the school board. I'll just homeschool my kids. This problem is going to skip a generation in my household. All of it got weaponized against me. I need to get I need to really sit down and get organized with all my J6 paperwork so I can reference some of this stuff and quote it exactly. There's a line in my sentencing memorandum from the prosecution that I'm paraphrasing it because I can't remember it exactly. I only was allowed to read it one time, but I read it about 10 times when I read it because my jaw was on the ground. The prosecution's justification for asking for an upward variance, they wanted me to go, my sentencing range was 70 to 87 months. and they wanted to go to 110 months. They wanted to push it to like almost 11 years. Okay. And they wanted to vary upward away from the guidelines because I didn't come from an economically disadvantaged background. And so my crime wasn't out of necessity. And that I'm educated and I should have known better. So I should be dealt with harshly to prevent other people who should know better from protesting or standing up. And then it went on to describe how I come from a nuclear family. So I should have been taught better, but I wasn't. So they should make an example out of me. They took everything that I considered good about my life that I thought was laudable and praiseworthy and should get me some credit. Like maybe a downward variance because he's generally a good guy. They took it and they turned it on its head and they used it against me.
Wow.
They used my virtue against me to ask the judge for a higher sentence. Now, the judge went like this. Well, I'm not going to do the upward variance, but he maxed out my guidelines. He gave me 87 months instead of 70.
And that was the cover that he used to do that.
That was well, I'm not giving you the 11 like they want.
Right.
I mean,
okay.
They used my virtue against me. So when I hear about, oh, you can get your, like, I got debanked, man. Imagine getting arrested for what I thought was a protest. And okay, I planned on pleading guilty to misdemeanors. When I showed up at the Tacoma courthouse, if they would have said misdemeanor, 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 I would have pled guilty. I'd have done some community service, paid the fine. I'm willing to go through it. Look, if you're going to enforce the laws equally to everybody, I'm happy to pick up trash on the side of the highway because my expectation is there'll be some Antifa friends there. Right? Because we all did the same thing. Right? So when they rolled out felony, 30 years in prison, felony, 10 years in prison, felony, 10 years in prison, misdemeanor, 2 years, or a year, like going on, I was like, oh, this isn't the same. Then a week or two later, I get a letter from my bank saying, oh, by the way, you've been debanked. And then I start getting letters from tech companies like Lyft saying, oh, by the way, we've closed your account and you can never use us again. And then I start getting, you know what I'm saying? And then I start getting letters from the IRS. Holy smokes. So we're there. It's a little harder for them to go through the steps because there's some decentralization in the federal government. Like the IRS got the tip from the DOJ through the Treasury or whatever, and it took them a week to get me the letter. And Wells Fargo got tipped off that they shouldn't do business with an insurrectionist, right? So it took them a week or two to get the letter. So it wasn't instant, but it happened. They have the tools to do that. They have the mechanisms and they have the gumption most of all.
But with this new Real ID, they'll be able to do it with just a click of a button.
Instantly, because they'll know. See, that was the other thing too, I realized. I was like, it's interesting what accounts they came after and what accounts they didn't come after. My more anonymous accounts, the ones that I don't link everywhere, left alone.
Huh. Weird.
But any account that was linked, had a lot of prominent pictures, gone. Right? But yeah, like somehow my Twitter account made it. But then again, I wasn't using this particular Twitter account for, my normal communications. The other thing too is, this is all trial stuff, but the manufactured, like showing a Twitter with an underscore in it. I've never had a Twitter with an underscore in it. @PeasantsPod _. Yeah. Right after they showed another tweet from my vanity name @PeasantsPod. I was not running two accounts called @PeasantsPod. And I've never used an underscore in any email password or email or vanity name ever that I can ever think of, right? But yet they just brazenly presented an underscore. And then when the FBI said, where'd you get this? He goes, the Wayback Machine. So it wasn't produced by the subpoenas. It was just produced by you doing a Google search. Crazy stuff. So if you don't believe that the government sets up a situation and then provides a result, here's a Bloomberg, two headlines from Bloomberg. One of them, want to slow climate change? Stop having babies. And then a little later, only migrants can reverse America's baby bust.
Oh,
so on one hand, they're saying stop having kids to stop climate change. On the other hand, they're like, open the doors.
Well, that's because white people are the cause of climate change.
Oh, yeah. So white people, that's exactly right. White people are the cause of climate change. So we're going to take a look at two things here. This is Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri, and he's talking about unfettered immigration, H-1B1 visa scams, and how this looks at a big top-down policy level. And then we're going to look at how it looks when it actually hits your neighborhoods.
The old conservative establishment may have opposed something like illegal immigration on procedural grounds, simply because it was illegal. But they took no issue with it in substance. If the same thing was achieved through legal avenues, many of them would celebrate and support it. At this point, it should be clear that the fact that something is sanctioned by our government doesn't mean it's good for our country. That much is obvious with various forms of legal immigration today. For decades, we heard that so-called high-skilled immigration was an urgent necessity. The H-1B visa, for example, was sold as a way to keep America globally competitive. Of course, we do have an interest in attracting the truly exceptional few, the very best and the brightest in the world. But that's not how programs like H-1B have actually functioned. Instead, they've imported a vast new labor force from abroad, not to fill jobs Americans can't or won't do, but to undercut American wages, replace American workers, and transfer entire industries into the hands of foreign lobbies. We've funneled in millions of foreign nationals to take the jobs, salaries, and futures that should belong to our own children. Not because the foreign workers are smarter or more talented, but merely because they're cheaper and more compliant, and therefore preferable in the eyes of too many business elites who often see their own countrymen as an inconvenience. While our trade agreements kneecapped blue-collar workers in a slow-moving disaster decades in the making, abuse of the H-1B program is kneecapping white-collar workers right before our eyes. For the tens of thousands of Americans who were forced to train their foreign H-1B replacements just to get their severance package, the fact that it's legal is of little comfort.
So how does this look on the street level, right? So there's Eric Schmidt talking about it from a policy perspective, and that just because the government sanctions something or makes it legal doesn't make it good for America, right? So even though these people, we came over on an H-1B1 visa, this is what it looks like when it actually hits your neighborhood, what this H-1B1 visa scam, right, starts to look like and how it actually impacts us as peasants.
There's a criminal scam. I don't think it's just in the state of Maine. I think it's probably all throughout. I know it's in New Hampshire as well, in Vermont. What is the scam?
Well, they're certainly not making money off the hotels that they operate in the general stores. If you look at a town like Lincoln, Maine, something similar has happened where one family from away, from out of state, has come in and purchased competing rival gas stations. But there's one gas station that's still owned by a local. And so naturally, the people who know the guy who owns the store and don't know the guy who owns the other stores will go and patronize the guy that they still know. So as business has declined to these other general stores, somehow they're still thriving. And initially their employees are locals and Mainers, but then eventually there's a new class of employees who are brought in very likely on visas, who are also from away. So I think that if you look at some of the...
From India.
I think that if you look at some of the cases that have been filed, even under the Biden administration, against operations that look a lot like what's happening in Maine, they're immigration scams. They're using these businesses as a pretext to get SBA loans and also to get access to visa programs so that they can sell legal entry into the country to people back in.
So they're selling those visas.
To be clear, I don't have proof that that's happening in Lincoln or Dexter, but there are indictments there's one I know of very well in Texas where that's exactly what was happening.
It's made every town where I've seen it, and it's, a dozen or more worse.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, there are a million scams, but like if you roll into somebody's town.
So they'll come into town, they'll buy a hotel or a gas station, sometimes competing ones. And even if you see them not doing business, you're like, how are they staying open? You know why? Because their business isn't selling you chips, Fritos, and unleaded gasoline. Their business is selling visa opportunities to their friends back home. $10,000 for an H-1B1 visa. And here, apply at this website and pay us $10,000. And you can come work at the Quickie Mart for 6 months. And then you're on your own. You know what I mean? Next. That's how they're doing it.
Wow.
But it's legal. Who's stopping them? Who's stopping them? The opposition to illegal immigration was on procedural grounds. Well, it's illegal, so I'm opposed to everything that's illegal. Oh, we can make it legal. Well, then I support everything that's legal. But it's bad for our country. I'm not concerned about that, says the politician. Okay? So if you want to know how crazy it is, here's the Mayor Brandon Johnson talking about basically saying that the shootings in Chicago will continue.
And they've made historic progress. However,
We will never be able to end gun violence in Chicago as long as the president continues to allow tens of thousands of guns to be trafficked into our state and our city.
Oh, okay. What? So we will never end gun violence so long as there's guns in circulation. All right.
The vast majority of guns do not come from Chicago. They are not made in Cook County. They are not bought in the state of Illinois. These guns come from red states.
Oh.
They are coming from Indiana. They are coming from Mississippi. They are coming from Louisiana. That is the harsh reality, whether Republicans like it or not. Occupying our city will do nothing to solve this problem. No matter how much work we do or how hard we work, whether it's expanding our Detectives Bureau, investing in community violence intervention, and addressing the root causes of crime, none of it will ever be enough until the president decides to end the mass trafficking of guns in our city. For every gun that the Chicago Police Department fights to get off the streets, 2 or 3 more new guns come into our city. Chicago will continue to have a violence problem as long as red states continue to have a gun problem.
No.
Shootings will continue as long as this presidential administration
Dude, spoons make people fat, bro.
To put politics over people. We have sued Glock over their semi-automatic guns that are easily converted into automatic weapons with switches. We have taken down gun stores in Indiana that illegally sell thousands of guns to traffickers who move them into Chicago.
Good.
I wonder if they've ever considered taking down the gun stores that sold guns to the straw man buyers that the government sent for the Fast and Furious.
But whatever we shut down, and whenever we do this, another one pops up. The governor has worked extremely hard to
says the
strengthen our gun control laws across our state. Yeah. And as much as we would like to, we cannot send officers across state lines to stop this problem at the source. We only have jurisdiction over our own city. The governor only has jurisdiction over our state lines.
I feel like he's giving Trump all the reasons to come in federal. If the problem's a federal problem, then the federal solution will come.
Is the role, more importantly, the responsibility of the federal government and the president to stop the trafficking of weapons across state lines. For every shooting in Chicago, there is a gun trafficker in Mississippi making money. There is a gun trafficker in Louisiana profiting off of our pain.
Okay, so that's enough of that. It's just kind of more of the same. But here's the thing. This is attack. This is bullet points going out. So this is the mayor of Minnesota having something similar to say.
So we have had bans on assault weapons nationally before. That ban then expired. And so this is not, it's not as if this is some unique thing that has never been tried. Other countries have had mass shootings. And then rather than sit on their hands, they have made the move to ban assault weapons so that that kind of thing doesn't happen again. The only difference is we haven't made that move in decades. And so we're in the position to do it now. Are there logistics that need to be worked out just like any piece of legislation? Of course there are. Of course there are. But we got to have the argument. We got to take the necessary steps. And we're in the position now to act.
Can you be more specific about assault weapon is a fairly arbitrary term that would need to be defined. You talk about banning certain models, certain assaultive features. Speak to how you're defining assault weapons.
Right. Generally speaking, we're talking about guns and devices that are built to be assault weapons and or devices that are built to shift non-assault weapons to be able to reel off a whole bunch of bullets all at once. And we've seen both of those in our city. We have seen the ability to simply attach a device to a non-assault weapon, and suddenly it is made into one that can reel off 30 rounds. We're trying to prevent both of those things from happening.
So some model and also certain assault features.
That's correct.
Is there a state that a number of states have some sort of restriction or ban? Is there a state that you think Minnesota or maybe Montana thought that's like should model it after? Because they do, the definition vary.
Yes. The definitions do vary for purposes of what we're asking for today. There are, I believe, 8 states that have allowed for municipalities and cities to act. So again, we are saying the best scenario here is obviously a national ban. The next best scenario is a statewide ban.
Okay, so national bans, statewide bans for guns, assault rifle mechanisms. CNN makes an interesting comment about this. Guys, this is where they're heading. This is the Machiavelli problem solution as we march down the Hegelian path and the garden path.
All of this. I'm all for crime reduction, but the conservatives who are celebrating this, you listen to the mayor of Chicago talk about the gun crisis in America. Well, what is to stop, given the precedents that Donald Trump is setting, what is to stop a Democratic, a Governor Pritzker, a Governor Newsom to say, we have a gun crisis in America, just as legitimate on the facts arguments as a crime crisis, and say, we're going to send the National Guard into states to go get their guns. There have to be standards here. The reason why Pritzker I get it for the politics. He keeps saying Trump was begging me to ask him to come. The reason why all of this,
National emergency on guns. Trump setting the precedent to come in and go door to door and look for those guns. Do you see the setup? It doesn't matter if the boot's coming from the left or the right. It's still a boot on my neck. Yeah. This is why I'm uncomfortable with some things, because it's like, while I agree with this particular outcome, unfortunately, I can't consent to give you the tool to achieve it. Mm-hmm. I have to fix it on my own, because if I give you the tool to achieve it, you'll turn around and weaponize. I want to fix terrorism. Patriot Act, Patriot Act. Why am I sitting in prison in solitary confinement being told I'm here on Patriot Act authorities? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Hey, we've got to stop drug trafficking and cartels, and we got to stop this money laundering problem. Why can't I spend cash at the gas station? I just need to buy something. Here's cash. This is legal tender. Can I use it? No, we're cashless. Every transaction has to be tracked. I'm sorry. No. And by the way, use your debit card, which you had to use your real ID to get. They want to make sure that based on your social media posts that you're allowed to purchase here. I mean, this power started out with, based on your social media, they figured out you were an illegal alien, so they could get you to self-deport if they just cut off your spending. That was initially why we did this. It's just a mass exodus of people who couldn't spend money here because they were illegals. And how'd they use it? Oh, this cool Palantir system. But I made a little joke about trannies the other day, and now I can't get gas. So I'm trying to use cash, but they won't take it because they're cashless. See what I'm saying? Yeah. You just walked into it. Yay, get Haji. Why am I in prison? The same tools they used to get Haji, they came and got you. The same tools they used to mass deport people, they came and got you. The same tools they use to track people and prevent money laundering, well, they're basically preventing you from making a living now, because they don't like the fact that you're an entrepreneur and you're competing with one of the duopolies that are out there. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't win. You can't win when we empower people with these tools. Do I know the solutions? Oh, heck no. My solution is get out now. Make yourself not dependent on these systems, because it's not cool. A couple other highlights. President Trump moved the Space Force Head Command from Colorado Springs, Colorado to Alabama, specifically citing their mail-in voting and inferring Tina Peters is the reason why he moved it. So he just took 31,000 jobs away from Colorado, moved it to Alabama, which is where they originally wanted the Space Force anyways, closer to NASA. But he basically just big time punished Colorado for not playing the game.
Bye-bye.
Big time. Big deal. Losing a military base and losing a command like that. Free Tina Peters. Yeah. Can we keep Space Force?
Probably too late for that.
Yeah, it's probably too late. Okay, we've reached our time for the public show. We're going to jump over to private and just watch. We're gonna learn a little bit about something that we believe is coming out with regards to acetaminophen, Tylenol, and childhood vaccine, and we're gonna hear about the bloodbath that's been happening over at the CDC. Oof. So we'll jump over to private. We'll be doing that. Chats were really quiet this morning. Yeah, it's fine. A lot of you guys stuck around for the whole show, so that's really fun. All right, those of you that are leaving us, don't forget to visit leftbehindandwithout.org, peasantsperspective.com.